It's time to clean our blood of the taint of niggers. A middle-aged, bearded white man shouted, "White power!" Many white men in the room shouted. I raised my beige fist in the air and shouted with them. My eyes were a deep blue that almost seemed to glow in contrast to my skin tone. My hair was light brown and curly. I kept it short to hide the obvious nigger in my blood. I'm biracial. My father was a dark-skinned black man who, like most niggers, didn't care about his children. Maybe if he did, I would not have found myself here. A light-skinned half-black man with blue eyes at a white power rally. I hated niggers because I hated my father. I hated every ounce of nigger blood that ran through my veins. My white brothers, for the most part, accepted me. I was a part of their push to absorb half-white biracial people. I could atone for the sin of my birth, for being the abomination I am, by marrying a white woman and ensuring my nigger taint in me is slowly bred out. But some would never accept me. To them, I was just another nigger pretending to be white. I could not blame them. Sometimes I felt the same way. We accept our half-nigger brothers who accept us and are willing to breed out the taint in their blood, the middle-aged man said. I could feel the eyes of the room turn towards me. I was always the odd man out here, despite all the work I put in for the brotherhood. I raised my fist high in the air and shouted, "White power!" Many of my white brothers joined me, but others shook their head in disgust. No matter what I did, I would never have some of my brothers' respect. I would never be just white like them. I could only hope my children were white enough to pass, that they would not have to endure this same mistrust from their white peers. Our numbers are getting smaller every year. Too many pure-blood white men and women are creating half-niggers. The only way to stop us from being bred out is to accept these abominations and have them breed back into whiteness, the middle-aged white man shouted. I could sense a fear in the room. I have discovered the biggest fear among my white brothers was being erased. It was true, they were. Being white was almost illegal. Every other race can have pride in who and what they were. But if a white man was proud of his pure Anglo-Saxon Aryan blood, he was considered a racist. Yet a nigger can say he is black and proud all day. White values and culture were being erased. We all know that to destroy your people, you have to first destroy their culture and identity. The proud white identity was being destroyed and replaced with a more passive, placating white man. That was a hard pill to swallow for a race of men that built and empowered the world as we know it. I know many of my brothers would never accept that. It was hard for them to accept a half-blood like myself, who would be sleeping with their pure Aryan white women. Pure Aryan women were hard enough to find these days, yet alone ones that were down for the race. I was their half-breed dog, and I would be fed the scraps that the true Aryan brothers did not want. As our leader has said many times, we all have to make sacrifices for the betterment of our people. I guess getting with an unattractive woman for the sake of breeding the nigger from lineage was a sacrifice I had to make. I had to do my part to advance my Aryan race. Being that I was a mutt, my options were limited. As dedicated as I was, I had my moments of confusion. I was patrolling our neighborhood for niggers and illegals when I saw a nigger parked in front of a house. This was a house of a known hoe, but she was Aryan. She was protected here as long as she did not fuck niggers. I am a prime example of what happens when pure Aryan blood is defiled with nigger taint. "Hey, boy!" I shouted as I approached the car. The vehicle was an older red muscle car. If he was not a nigger, I would have complimented him on his taste. He probably stole the car. He turned and looked at me. I was disgusted by his dark flesh and features. His face was furrowed in frustration. He had to know this was an Aryan neighborhood and his kind were not welcome here. Niggers may want to breed themselves out of existence by fucking everything besides their own women, but we Aryans did not. We loved our blood and wanted to preserve our race. If there was a nigger in our neighborhood, it's because he wants one of our women. I don't blame him. Who would not want to breed up? He started to get out of his car as I approached. He was big, and I could not let him get the upper hand. I rushed him and hit him as hard as I could on his black face. He was still halfway in his car. I slammed the door several times on him. "Stop, man!" he pleaded. I hit him in the face several more times for good measure. I was honestly disgusted by him. They act tough, but when it comes down to it, they are subservient cowards. How else could you explain allowing yourself and your people to be enslaved for over 100 years? How could these big niggas sit back and watch a white man rape their women? They were spineless cowards and deserved no respect. I hate niggas like you, I spat at him. The black man looked at me long and hard for a moment. It seemed like he was studying my face. His eyes darted to my short brown hair, a smile that made his teeth look extremely white against the backdrop of his black skin cracked his bloody and swollen face. You're a white supremacist? The black man mocked. He coughed and spat out blood. He shook his black head at me. I felt rage fill me. Though I hated to admit it, I knew what he was talking about. He could see the tainted black blood of my father in me. If this nigga could see it so plainly, then my Aryan brothers definitely could. I pulled out my gun and pointed at his nigger head. He stopped laughing. I knew it would not be long before he started to beg for his life, but I was wrong. He smiled. You hate me because you are me. You'll get your nigga wake-up call soon enough, the black man said. He smiled broadly and laughed at me. My hand shook. I was already experiencing this so-called nigga wake-up call. A lot of my white brothers looked at me with the same hate and disgust as I looked at this nigga before me. My Aryan brothers tolerated me because they needed to keep their bloodline going. They knew they were being bred out. So breeding the white back into the half-breeds was their plan to retake their Aryan blood from the nigga taint. I'll never be you, nigga, I shouted. I don't remember pulling the trigger. It seemed like I stepped from my body and watched some crazed man who looked like me murder someone. I emptied my clip into him. He fell after the first shot pierced his skull. I pointed at his bloody head and continued pulling the trigger. I'm no nigga, I shouted. Even after my clip was spent, I kept pulling the trigger. The world seemed engulfed in silence, as if everything knew what I did, and they were accusing me with their silence. The only sound was the steady clicking of the trigger being pulled. What the holy fuck? I turned and pointed my gun at the man who spoke. Hey, calm the fuck down, Jordan. I was in a haze. My heart raced, and I could hardly breathe. It took me a moment, but I recognized my Aryan brother. I took a deep calming breath, and the haze started to fade. My hands shook. I had that nigga's blood splattered all over my body. My Aryan brother looked at me. He didn't know if he should congratulate me on killing my first nigger, or condemn me for the heat this would bring to this area. Everyone knew this was an Aryan neighborhood, that if you were not white in this neighborhood after sundown, you would die here. No one has enforced that for many years. Hence how half-breeds with tainted nigger blood in their veins like myself came about. Run to the meeting hall, shower, and burn those clothes, the Aryan brother said. He stuck out his hand and looked at the gun that shook in my trembling hand. I hesitated for a moment, but gave it to him. I'm gonna call Mitchell. The Brotherhood will handle this. You just lay low at the meeting hall, okay? The Aryan brother said. I nodded. My throat seemed incredibly dry. I licked my lips and gagged at the taste of blood. I shook my head and looked at the mangled face of the black man I had just murdered. I had shot him so many times his face was not recognizable. It looked like a bloody ball of flesh. I felt dizzy. The adrenaline was leaving my body, and the reality of what I had just done sunk in. I had murdered a man simply for seeing the black blood of my father in me. He mocked me. Maybe he was right to do so. I was a half-black man trying to hate half of who I was. Go now, Jordan, the Aryan brother shouted. My legs felt like they weighed a ton. My Aryan brother was right. I had to get out of here. I turned and forced my body, which was still in shock, to move. I ran as fast as I could to the meeting hall. It was an old, abandoned building that the Brotherhood secretly repurposed for those that needed to hide. For those honored among the Brotherhood who were wanted by the law. The outside was boarded up, and it looked like a regular condemned house. But the inside was decorated and decked out to sustain the long-term survival of the brothers that needed it. The meeting hall had one rule. There could be no sound coming from the house. There was TV, but you had to watch it with headphones. Brothers came by every week and kept the refrigerator stocked. A brother lived in a house next to it, and electricity was wired from his house to the meeting hall. The wires were buried, as not to give suspicion. The same with the internet. I didn't know if I should feel honored to be able to hide in the meeting hall or be afraid that the law would be looking for me. I rounded the corner and was out of breath. The meeting hall was just a block away. "Half-breed!" I heard a voice behind me. I turned and felt a sharp blow land on my cheek. I stumbled back. I was hit again. I don't remember falling, but I hit the dirt hard. "Mitchell sends his regards. You're not Aryan and never will be, boy," the man said. I saw him lift his heavy boot. I knew this was it for me. I had killed a nigger and put the brotherhood at risk. I looked up at the proud white brother and watched as his boot came down on my skull. "Wake up, nigger." I felt a sharp sting on my face. "You fucking abomination, wake up." I felt the sting on my face again. I took a deep, shuddering breath and opened my eyes. "Ah, there you are, nigger." I looked in the direction of the voice and saw a white police officer. I tried to move my hands, but they were cuffed behind my back. I wondered why he was calling me a nigger. I was of Aryan blood. I was white just like him. Did he not know the work I put in for the Brotherhood? The Aryans had many cops among them. They helped the Brotherhood in many ways, mostly by covering up their criminal activities. "Though I applaud you for killing that nigger," the cop started. He stared at me for a long moment. "You're not Aryan, and you never will be. You're a nigger." "I'm gonna give you some advice, boy," the cop sighed. He seemed torn. He respected Jordan for the work he has put in on behalf of the Brotherhood. Yet, the fact remained, Jordan could never be an Aryan with his tainted blood. You're going to prison for a long time. They would try to get you for a hate crime. If they do, you will rot in a federal cell. You're half nigger. If I were you, I would claim that. They can't call a black man killing a black man a hate crime. The cop looked at me for a long moment. When you get to prison, don't claim the Brotherhood. No one on the outside cares about the work you put in. You're just a nigger in there. You hear me? The cop said. I nodded. The cop shook his head, as if he knew I would not give up on the Brotherhood so easily. What he said made sense, though. If I got hit with a hate crime, I would do life and maybe more. No one knows why I killed that nigger but me. I could just say he stole some money from me and I was trying to reclaim it when he attacked me. He was a nigger after all. He was bound to have a rap sheet. We were already at the county jail. The cop pulled me out of the back and walked me in. I felt strange. This was something I always wanted to avoid. I was being thrown into a pit, so to speak, with a bunch of niggas. I knew I would not fit in. The white power tattoos on me would make it even more difficult. Even if I didn't have the tattoos, I knew I would never fit into the black community. I was tan-skinned with blue eyes. I would never be black enough for them. But oddly enough, I was white enough to join the Brotherhood. Even if I was still treated like a mongrel. At least I was still accepted and protected. The Brotherhood was throwing me to the wolves. But could I blame them? I killed a nigger in a neighborhood that was known to be controlled by the Brotherhood. Most of all, the kill was unsanctioned. I was out of control, and my actions put the Brotherhood at risk. I had to be real with myself. I was no hero. Yes, killing the nigger earned me some respect, but an unsanctioned kill was just a murder. I was not upset with them for turning me in. Hell, in today's climate, you could barely raise your voice at a nigger without being called a racist. For a nigger to be murdered in a pro-white neighborhood was asking for Black Lives Matter to burn it down. I shook my head. My emotional reaction to that nigger calling me black almost started a race war. Despite all the talk, the Brotherhood was not ready for a race war. Our numbers were way down. Hence me with my tainted blood being in the Brotherhood. I was booked for murder and various other charges. But I knew murder was the one they wanted to pin on me. I was classified as black, despite telling the white booking officer that I was white. He looked at my hair and features and said I could choose between black or Mexican. But there was no way I was white. I was angry, but didn't have time to think about it too much. I was thrown in a cell with a bunch of darker-skinned niggers. I was the only one in that cell that was like me, that was biracial. I found a spot in the corner and sat. They all stared at me. Their eyes were going over every inch of my body that was exposed. It seemed like they were rabid dogs looking for a weakness in the dog that was thrown in their pen. It seemed all of their eyes locked on a lightning bolt on my neck at once. I knew there was going to be trouble. My heart raced. I took slow breaths to calm myself. I was scared of these niggas. They were violent animals, and I was thrown into a cell full of them. "Hey nigga, what's that on your neck?" a black inmate asked. I acted like I didn't hear him. "Yeah, what is that shit?" another voice said. They all started to talk among themselves and point to my neck. "You hear me, nigga? What's that shit on your neck?" the black inmate shouted. He stood and stared at me. He started to clench his fist. I knew this would rapidly turn into violence. I was a brother of the Aryan nation. I was no coward. Even though I would lose, I would stand and face these inferior apes like the white man I was. I stood and turned to the black inmate that asked me the question. The entire cell hushed like they were anticipating the violence that was to come. "It means white power, you fucking monkey," I replied. I breathed rapidly. The room was so silent, I could hear my heart pounding in my chest. The adrenaline pumping through me was so intense, I felt like I was going to pass out. Then, out of nowhere, the inmates started to laugh. They pointed at me and laughed hysterically. "You must be mentally ill, nigga," an inmate said. He wiped tears from his eyes. "How are you a black white supremacist?" another inmate asked. "He's a real-life Clayton Bigsby," another said. They mockingly made the Heil Hitler salute towards me. I was furious, but I knew to escalate this would be foolish. I sat back down and stared at the dirty cell floor as they laughed louder and mocked me. "What are you in for, nigga?" a black inmate asked. The cell hushed up a bit. Many still laughed, but they did quietly. "Murder," I replied. Many of the black inmates shook their heads. To them, I was just a nut job, a black man pretending to be white. Maybe they were right. "When you get to the pen, you better drop that white boy shit," an older inmate said. He walked over to me and knelt before me. He seemed to have the respect of the other inmates. I didn't look up at him. I felt if I met his gaze, he would attack me like most wild animals. Those white boys in the pen won't accept you. If you go to them, the niggas won't accept you either. "It's not good to be alone in prison, youngster," the older black man said. Again, I didn't reply. This nigga didn't know what he was talking about. The brotherhood anywhere would always accept me. I put in a lot of work for them. I was a brother. "Man, fuck that confused nigga OG. Let them white boys get his pale ass," an inmate shouted. "Yeah, fuck him," another black inmate agreed. The older black man they call OG raised his hand in the air, and they all shut up. He was a man with authority. He must have put in some work when he was on the streets. "Nah, he's just a little mixed up. My brother is biracial like him, and it's hard for mixed kids, especially if they are rejected by us," the OG said. He put his hand on my shoulder. I flinched. Every inmate in the cell stood up to protect the old black man that was talking to me. "Sit down. I could handle this youngster alone if he was dumb enough to try something," the OG said. "All right, OG," many of the black inmates said. Others just looked at me. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught that we are lost in the wilderness of America. That lostness is mental. Where we as his black brothers failed this biracial man, the white man did not. We left him out to dry like we do many of our biracial brothers, and the white man picked him up and turned him into a slave against his own people, the OG said. "Talk to him, brother," an inmate shouted. "Allah loves this black man as confused as he is. He was placed in a cell with us, of the nation, and not with the other lost brothers who would have not understood and murdered him," the OG said. He stared at me for a long moment. The other black inmates seemed to wait on his every word, like they felt empowered by him. "We are freed slaves in our old master's lands. Just like on the plantation, there were slaves that lived in the big house and slaves that lived in the shacks in the field. The house slaves thought their life was good and felt they were better than those in the field. Oftentimes, the house slaves were used against us field slaves, not understanding that we are all slaves in the end," the OG said. He never took his piercing gaze off me. Even the house slaves got a nigga wake-up call. Prison will be this black man's wake-up call. No one from the black Muslims is to touch him. Put the word out. The OG said, "Yes, Minister Farouk." The black Muslims replied. Minister Farouk leaned over and whispered in my ear, "I know you're hard-hearted, so I'll extend you an olive branch. When we go to prison and the white devils have their way with your black ass, we will take you in if you submit to Allah." Minister Farouk squeezed my shoulder and left me in the corner. This dumb nigga and his nonsense, I thought to myself. The Aryans would never rape me. Homosexuality was against Aryan law. Most of all, I was not black. I was a proud white brother of the Aryan nation. My brothers in prison will know that. My time in county jail went quickly for me. The prosecutor sent me a deal of manslaughter. He made it clear that he did not want to deal with the political mess of a black white supremacist. If I went to trial testifying that I was an active member of the Aryan Brotherhood as part of a program to breed the black out of biracials, it would make national headlines. The prosecutor did not want that headache, and apparently neither did the judge. My silence meant more than the life of the nigger I killed. I don't know why, but for some reason it bothered me that his life meant so little in the eyes of the law. Minister Farouk was relentless in his efforts to get me to accept the wisdom of the man Elijah Muhammad. He called him a prophet for the black man. What was amusing was they taught the same thing the Aryans taught, just in a way that favored them. To them, whites were inferior. They believed they were created from bird shit in a secret lab. That white men were cursed by God, hence their pale skin and blue eyes. The Aryans taught that blacks were cursed by God, hence their black skin. That they were beasts created to serve the devil. It seemed I was torn between a white race cult or a black one. Minister Farouk pled guilty to his charge of aggravated assault and was shipped to the state prison. He, like most niggas, blamed the white man for them being there. He said a white man tried to burn down his black masjid, and he beat him within an inch of his life. I doubted that was true. The Aryans did not stray from their drug activity. They wanted to make money and increase their numbers. Bringing attention to themselves by attacking a black place of worship was not the kind of attention they wanted. If it did happen, it was probably a lowly redneck who was fed up with uppity niggers in his neighborhood. With Minister Farouk gone, I felt even more alone. The black Muslims that were still here left me alone. They put the word out that if any touched me, the Muslims would deal with them. Matthews, number 374-10086, roll up, you're shipping out. A corrections officer yelled. I guess it was my time to go to prison. I had 4 years to do, and I wanted desperately to see my Aryan brothers. The bus ride to the state prison was a long one for me. Most of the inmates on the bus were excited to finally leave the dregs of the county jail and get settled into their more permanent lifestyle and routine. Most of these men were repeat offenders. I was scared, not only because this was my first time, but these men did not have my dilemma. They did not have to worry about where they fit in. In my heart, I was an Aryan, and I would seek out the Aryan brothers in this space. But I could not deny the taint of nigger blood that ran through my veins. This would be difficult for me if the Aryans did not accept me. I could not see myself surrounded by a bunch of niggas for the next several years. Hey! A voice said from behind me. I felt a tap on my shoulder. I turned expecting to fight, but saw a bald-headed white man. He was an Aryan. You that black Aryan? The one that's in for killing a nigger? The white man said. He said it loud enough for those surrounding me to hear. Many of the black inmates turned and looked at me. I knew something was up. An Aryan brother would never refer to me as a black Aryan. That was an insult to the Aryan blood. Not black, just an Aryan, I said sternly. The white man turned to the nigger sitting around me. You hear that, boys? He's not black. The white man mocked. I was not sure what just transpired, but the niggas glared at me for the entirety of the bus ride to the prison. I knew I would have to fight sooner than later. As soon as we arrived at the prison, I was classified and sent to a unit. They classified me as black and sent me to a predominantly black unit. The guards laughed when I told them I was white. I don't see the issue with me wanting to be white. My mother was white. I grew up white. I was part of the Aryan Brotherhood. Every time I told the guards this, and I was mocked. I would hush all that up quickly. As soon as I could, I sought out the leader of the Aryans. It was not hard to find him. He was tall, white, very well built, and had the same tattoos I had. White brothers surrounded him and waited on his every word. He was in the yard working out. I did not know this then, but the yard was by far the most dangerous place in the entire prison. This was where business was done, and wars were started. Each race had their own part of the yard and took turns with the weights. Word had gotten around about me before I even stepped into the yard. All the races stared at me. The niggas glared at me. I saw Minister Farouk in the corner with a large number of nigger Muslims. His group was by far the biggest. He shook his head at me. I shrugged and looked for the Aryans. They were on the weights. I started to walk over to them. The brothers that stood watch leaned down and whispered something into their leader's ear, who was bench pressing. I heard him laugh and watched as he sat up and locked eyes with me. I tried to read his eyes, but all I could see was the cold lifelessness of someone who has given up. He was probably a lifer and had been in prison for many years already. He would die here, and he had accepted that. That fact alone made this man dangerous. There was nothing they could do to this man. He was not afraid of any other punishment. He could murder me in front of everyone and think nothing of it. He had nothing to lose. He nodded at the brothers guarding him as I approached. They glared at me and stepped aside. "So, you're the half nigger in the breeding program, huh?" the Aryan leader asked. "I am," I responded. Immediately felt a sharp blow to my gut. I doubled over and struggled to breathe. The Aryans laughed at me. "When speaking to our leader, the first and last words out of your nigger-tainted mouth is 'Yes, brother master,'" one of the Aryan guards growled at me. I noticed the Aryan leader eyed the black Muslims. He was very aware of his surroundings and didn't seem to miss a thing. I regained my breath and stood up. "Yes, brother master," I replied. The Aryan leader smiled at me. "We have our own breeding program here for the tainted ones," the Aryan leader said. I smiled. I could still be of use to the Brotherhood. I could still be a part of them. I didn't have to grovel to niggers. The Aryan leader nodded to two of the Aryan guards, and they grabbed me roughly. I didn't fight or resist. These were my brothers, and I was being accepted. The correctional officers saw the Aryans grab me and turned their heads. It seemed the Aryans had some power in here, or the inmates had an understanding with the guards. They dragged me into the Aryan leader's cell and stood by the door so I could not leave. My heart raced. I wondered if the Aryan master had a mission for me. I didn't have to wait long for the Aryan leader to appear. He walked in and smiled at me. He was a huge man. I was tall, but he towered over me. He looked like a demon with his blue eyes on the backdrop of his pale flesh. He smiled wickedly at me. "First off, Taint, I heard about the nigger you killed. I applaud your work," the Aryan leader said. He took off his shirt and started to take off his pants. I nodded at the appreciation of my work. "But this is prison, and facts remain you're a nigger, and we can't have even half niggers among our ranks," the Aryan leader said. I nodded and was getting ready to go, but the Aryan leader held his arms up. "Since you were dumb enough to think your tainted self could be part of us in prison, I have to make an example of you," the Aryan leader said. He smiled as he saw it come together in my eyes. He was going to rape me. I swung on him. I hit him as hard as I could in his face. He staggered back. As I went to strike him again, I was hit hard. It felt like the side of my head was going to explode. I was dazed and hit again several more times. The Aryan leader laughed. "Too bad you're a taint. You definitely have some balls," the Aryan leader said. His two guards held me down and ripped my prison pants from me. "Hand me the knife," the Aryan leader commanded. Were they going to kill me? My Aryan family that I put so much work in for. I'm doing time for killing a nigger in our neighborhood. I can't die like this. I struggled as hard as I could. They hit me in the back of my head several times. "Buck down, boy. I'm not going to fuck you yet," the Aryan leader mocked. I was on the verge of blacking out. I can't have a taint running around here with our marks on them, the Aryan leader said. He put the knife to my neck and started to cut the flesh that held the lightning bolt tattoos on them. I screamed in pain as he cut deep. Hot blood dripped on his cell floor. Damn it, I'm gonna have to give some good Aryan the horrible task of cleaning your tainted blood from my floor, the Aryan leader said. He nodded to one of his guards, and they hit me several more times in my face. My body slumped. Now to the ones on your back, the Aryan leader mocked. He set a strip of my bloody tan flesh on the floor. He was careful to put it directly in my eyesight. Having a taint running around here claiming us weakens us. On the street, the breeding program is needed. In here, you're just another nigger, the Aryan leader said. I could feel my hot blood dripping from my neck. Hot pain seared through me as he sliced into my back. I had swastikas tattooed there. It was a rather huge one. I might die from this. I must have blacked out again. I felt a sharp sting on my face as the Aryan leader slapped me hard. Look at my work, taint, the Aryan leader said. There were huge slabs of my skin on the floor. I could see the tattoos of the Brotherhood on them. Now I'm gonna rape you. I want you to feel every inch of this, the Aryan leader said. His guards hit me several more times. I was on the verge of blacking out again. They held my face down and watched as their leader rammed himself inside of me. I wanted to scream, but I could barely breathe. My butt felt like it was on fire. You feel that, taint? You're being blessed with real Aryan meat, the Aryan leader mocked. He took his finger and jabbed it into one of the huge wounds on my back, one of the places where he cut the Aryan tattoos from my flesh. Pain seared through me, and I finally felt the mercy of passing out. I woke alone and in pain. I was hoping all that had happened was just a bad dream, a nightmare that I had finally woken up from. But as soon as I took my first deep breath, I knew it wasn't. My face was bruised and swollen. My back and butt were bandaged. I was dizzy with pain. Praise Allah, brother. I slowly turned to see Minister Farouk sitting next to me. I don't know why, but seeing him made me weep. He looked like an angel praying for the souls of the dying. I was a soul he thought he could redeem. It is often when we are at our worst point in life that we notice Allah. You have fallen, and Allah has caught you. Will you accept His mercy, brother? Minister Farouk said. He held my hand tenderly, like he was a concerned father. I couldn't speak even if I wanted to. My face was too beaten and swollen. My whole world had been turned upside down. I didn't know who I was anymore. I was laid bare. The tattoos of my former life were carved off me. I knew I could no longer claim to be Aryan. I wouldn't now, even if I could. I didn't know who I was. I had built my life around being white and being an Aryan brother. Now that was stripped from me as well. I nodded at Farouk, and he smiled. I know you can't talk, but Allah is with you. He broke you down so you would hear Him. From this day forward, brother, you will never be alone. Minister Farouk patted my hand and left. I fell back asleep shortly after he did. I felt like a newborn who was discovering the world for the first time. I could see things outside of the hateful lens of the Brotherhood. The world was brand new. I didn't believe in Minister Farouk's God, but I was thankful to him for helping me love and embrace who I actually am. I am a biracial man, and there's nothing wrong with that. My time in prison went faster than I thought it would. I kept my head down and let my wounds heal. I had to get several stitches in my anus. The massive wounds where the Aryan leader cut the tattoos of the Brotherhood from me ended up getting infected. I spent a lot of time in the infirmary. It's a hard thing for a man to deal with when he's raped. I felt violated in a way I never thought possible. This man was the leader of the Brotherhood I held in such high esteem, yet he raped me. Homosexuality was against all tenets of the Brotherhood, yet the leader raped me. I couldn't wrap my head around it. I would spend many sleepless nights staring at the ceiling in the infirmary. I would cry silently. A part of me died in prison. I would never be able to reclaim who I once was. I think the worst part of being raped, besides the actual rape, was not knowing if I got infected by it. Every 4 months I had to get checked for HIV. Every 4 months I was reminded that I was raped. Laying there in that infirmary bed, I decided I didn't want to live anymore. I didn't know who I was. I wasn't black, nor was I white. I was something in between. Something that was left over. I was neither here nor there. I was confused. I didn't want to be black. I didn't want to be a part of that victimhood mentality that plagued black people. I hated the black blood that ran in my veins. I hated my mother for being a nigger lover. Everything I had clung to for identity and purpose was shattered by each thrust from that rapist. To think that I once looked up to men like him. To strong Aryans that were enforcing the laws of the Brotherhood. Minister Farouk saw me often. If he was not there, then another Muslim brother was by my side. I was thankful for their protection. I could never be a black Muslim. I was honestly done with that cult mindset. I didn't want to believe in anything. I doubted there was a God. If there was, then what was the purpose of biracial people? Why would he allow us to be made? If he loved us so much, then why make us suffer? Minister Farouk told me this life is a test. The test was harder for the believer. I laughed mockingly at him. How could this get any harder? I was lying in a hospital bed in prison. I was beaten, raped, and had my skin peeled off. If this was what it meant to be a believer in the black religion, then I did not want it. When I got out of prison, I would be treated like a nigger. Being a half-black ex-con was just as bad as being full black. I could not run from it now. I was part of a system designed for black people. As much as I tried to avoid it, here I was, another statistic. I didn't control my identity. There was no such thing as being free to choose who you wanted to be when it came to race. You were either white or you're not. Unfortunately, I was not. After several months, I was released from the infirmary. I was sent to Minister Farouk's pod. The black Muslims were vast in numbers in the prison. If you were under the protection of the black Muslims, no one messed with you. But of course, their protection was not without a cost. I had to learn the Quran and pray with the brothers 5 times a day. It was extremely tedious. But I learned to respect and even fear the black Muslims. They were very disciplined. They only feared Allah. Any man who only feared the wrath of their God was dangerous. The black Muslims hustled like any other group in prison. They did not get involved with drugs or the sexual exploitation of the vast amount of homosexuals that infested the prison. But they did smuggle things in. Most of the black Muslims were very intelligent. I would argue they were the smartest group on the yard. Many would come to them for basic stuff like writing letters or poetry. I didn't understand how underrated a good poet was until I came to prison. If you could write even decent poetry, you would never go hungry in prison. As the years quickly drifted by, I became anxious about my release date. I had gotten so used to the routine of life of prison that I didn't know how I would survive without it. The real world was loud, and you couldn't trust anyone. It's odd to say you could trust fellow inmates, but things in here were simple. I knew the black Muslims had my back. If someone attacked me, I would be surrounded by brothers who would die for me. I found that I would do the same for them. We were all black. Yes, even I was. We all worshipped Allah. In prison, that brotherhood was all that mattered. I discovered through therapy that I needed to be part of something. If I wasn't, I felt alone and depressed. I was at my best when I was part of something. This made me vulnerable and dangerous. I was easy prey for the right charismatic leader. I was loyal to a fault and would die for any cause I believed in. This is what made me dangerous. I had to be careful what I allowed myself to be associated with. I was done with the Aryans. If they approached me on the streets, I would probably be right back in prison. My loyalty and need to be part of something made me blind to people who were using me. The Aryan Brotherhood had used me. I had killed for them. I had beat and tortured black men for them. I was willing to breed out the black in me for the sake of the brotherhood. Yet all I got in return was prison and raped. 4 years of my life were gone. I could never get that time back. But strangely, I was thankful for this time. Maybe Farouk was right in this life being a test. I detested it when I first heard him say that. But now I found peace in the thought that all I have endured was part of some greater purpose or design. My release date was coming up. I was scared of walking out of those prison gates. Minister Farouk and the black Muslims were excited for me. Well, as excited as one could be who was facing life in his hellhole. I felt bad discussing my anxiety with them. They would never get to feel what I'm feeling. They would die within these walls. Don't forget Allah, brother, Minister Farouk said, as the guards called me to roll up. The day had come for me. My 4-year sentence was up. I was walking out of prison. I would soon be a free man. Yet my heart was gripped with fear. See, no one ever tells you how much walking out of prison sucks. It's like rappelling down a mountain. That first initial lean back is the scariest. You're trusting that rope and that hastily tied together Swiss saddle to hold you, to ensure you don't fall and die on the rocks below. This is how walking out of prison felt for me. I was trusting the same rope that locked me away for 4 years to suddenly keep me from falling off that mountain. Matthews! A black guard shouted. I have grown fond of this guard. He was also a Muslim. He was not part of the black Muslims. He was just a regular Sunni Muslim man. I honestly didn't know the difference, but apparently there were several major differences between the sects. It was all confusing to me, and I honestly didn't care enough to find out what the differences were. You have some friends waiting for you by the gate, the black guard said. He pointed to some white men. I recognized them. I sighed deeply. Those aren't my friends anymore, I replied to the guard. The black guard smiled. He knew what had happened to me in here. He knew who I was when I came into this prison. Well, if they were to somehow land on your fist, the guard started. He looked around at the other guards, and they all nodded. None of us here saw anything, the guard finished. I smiled. For some strange reason, I was going to miss prison. I walked out of the front gate with just the clothes on my back and the change in my heart that was forged from my time in prison. Hey, Jordan, what's going on, brother? One of the white Aryans shouted. They approached me as the prison gates closed behind me. I took a deep breath of freedom. I looked around at the morning sky. I smiled. I was free of prison, but not yet free of my past. I didn't respond to the Aryan. I just walked up to him and beat him within an inch of his life. The other Aryans did not try to intervene. They were cowards. If these were black Muslims, they would have all been on me. But these white cowards watched as I destroyed a man they called brother. Look at me, motherfuckers. I'm not Aryan. I'm biracial, and I'm okay with that. Stay the fuck away from me, I roared at the Aryans. Just moments out of prison, and my clothes were splattered with blood. I sighed. Allahu Akbar, brother, I heard a shout from the yard. I turned to see the black Muslims cheering for me. I looked at the guards. They nodded at me. I was still free. I stared hard at the Aryans and walked away from them. I had a bus to catch. I knew this would not be the last time I saw the Aryans. But at least they now knew I had outgrown them. That I was better than them. To say out loud that I was biracial felt amazing. I can't explain it. I felt a weight or a pressure literally lift from me. It's like I had finally found a home. Denying who I truly was all these years had placed a burden on my soul that I didn't even know was there. I felt like I could breathe air for the first time in my life. I was half black and half white, and that was okay. I didn't hate my black blood anymore. I was not a white man who was tainted. I was the son of a black man and a white woman. I wondered if there were others like me, others who felt as lost and confused as I have felt. Life after prison was slow. It took me some time to get on my feet, to get used to being on my own. About a month after my release, I started to have nightmares. I would relive killing that black man. Some nights, I would find myself back in the Aryan master's cell, him carving the tattoos out of my flesh and raping me. I would wake up drenched in sweat. I started going to church. I thought that getting connected to a religion would help me with the nightmares. Unfortunately, it didn't. I was issued a no-contact order to stay away from my victim's family, but I had to do something. The guilt was eating me alive. I wrote the family a letter and gave it to my parole officer. I hoped that the letter would find itself in the hands of the victim's mother. I needed her to know I was sorry, that I was lost and confused, that I didn't know who I was, but most of all, that I was sorry. 2 months later, I got a call from my parole officer. My victim's family wanted to meet. I was scared. I almost didn't meet them. I was afraid of having to face a nightmare. I was a little boy who was afraid of the monster under the bed. Except I was the monster. I would have to face the demons of my past and the consequences of that past. The hardest thing in the world is looking in the mirror and truly seeing yourself. If it's true that the soul bears the scars of all of our sins and emotional trauma, then my soul had to be on life support. I agreed to meet them. I told them about my life in that letter, of how I struggled with race and identity, of how I thought I was something I was not. I hoped they understood. But even hoping for that was selfish. I murdered their son. Their son was the victim of my internal struggle. I got a light sentence based on the politics of who I was involved with. I bet that was a slap in the face for them. My body shook as I found myself sitting in front of his mother and father. They looked haggard. The father glared at me. I would not blame him if he attacked. I would not even fight back. It was his right to beat the life out of me. My parole officer and a cop were in the room with us. I couldn't tell if they were here for my safety or theirs. I felt like I was going to pass out. I was told to let them speak first. But as his parents stared at me, I started to sob. I don't know why I was crying, but I was. Maybe it was my soul releasing the burden of taking a life. "Why did you take my son from me?" the mother asked. She started to cry. I looked at the father, who was trying his hardest to hold his tears in. He didn't want to look weak in front of me. He was losing the battle to hold his emotion. He clenched his jaw so tightly that I thought his teeth would crack. I took a deep breath and tried to calm myself. "Because your son saw something in me that I once hated. He exposed something that I tried so hard to hide," I replied. I had to stop as emotion took over me again. "What did he see that you could justify what you did?" the mother asked. People would assume that the mother was the strong one because she was talking, but I knew differently. The mother was resigned to her grief. It was not in her nature to attack and avenge. The father was the strong one. He was waging an internal battle against the nature of a man to avenge his son. He was wrestling with the beast within him. As a man who was locked away with the worst of society, I recognized that beast. "Your son saw the black in me," I replied.